Mish, what's next for you? Let me ask you something now that you're here. What is next for you?
Well, I'm hoping to fight probably in February. Not exactly sure who yet, but I would like for it to be the title fight, but that doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So kind of just waiting to hear back from the OC on what's going to go on. So hopefully we'll see a February date.
When you look, though, at girls fighting, use Ronda and Holly, for example, that fight was not competitive in the least. That's just a fair assessment. It was not a competitive fight. So we're going to rematch them. And when we rematch them, Ronda has openly told us, I'm not training. I got my jaw hurts. I can't do so much as eat an apple, let alone train. I'm going to make this movie, blah, blah, blah. So you cut down the possible 7 months that she would have into a maximum of 3.5 months. Can you close the gap? Can Ronda Rousey close the gap that was obviously there between her and Holly in a 3.5-month span?
Well, Shelly, you're preaching to the choir because that's exactly what I've been saying. I'm not a fan of the rematch in that amount of time because with everything else that Ronda has going on, plus her injuries, I just think it's not gonna amount to a good outcome for her. I think that, like you said, it was not a competitive fight, and Holly has the perfect style to beat Ronda, and Holly's already back in the gym training. She had no injuries from the fight. She's perfectly fine, so she knows she's fighting Ronda next, but she gets this whole amount of time to even fix maybe little things that she wanted to improve on in the fight. So she's going to be even more prepared, and I don't know if it's a smart move because I think Ronda might go 0-2 in that.
Are you going to be keeping an eye on the situation with Aldo, McGregor, and Edgar? Because it's a similar thing, similar pickle you're in. I mean, Edgar has come back and won a lot of fights after losing to a champion, and now there's a new champion. And same thing with you. You lost a bunch of fights after losing your championship fight. And you were actually deemed a number one contender, much like they did with Frankie Edgar a few nights ago at the Cosmo. So now if they give him Edgar the fight, obviously I would think that's a little bit of leverage on your side. If they go to Aldo, then maybe that might sting. But are you keeping an eye on that situation?
Well, I just think it should be across the board. You know, if we're doing rematches for former dominant champions, and Aldo is, man, he's a killer. You know, he made a mistake and things happen. He got caught on the very first exchange, and I don't know what's really worse, honestly. In my opinion, getting dominated for the entirety of however long a fight lasts, so more than a round, in the situation with Ronda, versus getting clipped on the first exchange. I think getting outclassed over the whole fight says more about whether you're maybe deserving of a rematch or not than getting clipped on the first exchange. You know, I think Aldo's one of the best strikers in the world, and I also have to question about the IV situation. Now, I heard, I don't know, but like that Conor got an IV. Did anybody find that out? Like that Conor got an exempt for whatever reason and Jose did not?
Like Floyd?
I've been speculating for a long time about the IVs and how that affects how we're getting hit now and how our brains can take an impact. If you're cutting a lot of weight, as we all know Jose does, and so does Conor, that could be a huge advantage to have an IV and not have an IV. I've seen Jose take punches and eat them like chicken and still keep coming forward, and this is the first time I've ever seen something like that happen, and so many more knockouts seem to be happening on the cards, and I don't know, it leads me to wonder, you know. If rematches are something that's... Go ahead.
Well, Miesha, I know exactly what you're saying, but I will answer your question in there to whether Conor got an IV. If he got an IV, that would have to be disclosed to the commissioner. We would have that information by now, so no, he did not.
Like Cowboys getting
okay.
one, I believe. And I think Floyd, we found out, got one. So, yeah.